Welcome to the third installment of my bonus interview series with the cast and crew of Dance Life. It's called Dance Life TV Unplugged. You are here to bear witness to the interview of Emily Smith. Now, Emily Smith is a character that I call her a character. I'm going to say character in inverted commas, right? She's a real human, everybody. Just because she's on a television screen doesn't make her any less of a human. So, sometimes we can fall into that trap, can't we? But honestly, I love Emily. I really do. She was so cool, so honest, so raw, so open. I loved the fact that she shared a part of her upbringing, and it's something that I can actually quite resonate with. I like to say I come from the school of hard knocks, and I really did have quite a lot of turmoil in my childhood and upbringing. And I think when you see someone on screen open up about their experience, even though it may really be totally different to your own, you can absolutely connect with them. I mean, Emily brought me to tears. I just fell in love with her as a person and as a inverted commas character on the show. I love how authentic she was. And, it's really interesting because we talk about that and that experience of really opening up and what that led to and the fandom that led to as well. And, an outpour of messages and people supporting her and wanting to connect with her and tell her their stories, which is so powerful. What a beautiful impact. So we're going to talk about how that all kind of unfolded from when the show was released. We're also going to talk about her experience on the show, but also what she's up to now and what's come of the success off the back of Dance Life. Emily's a wonderful human, and, I think she's one of the most loved characters. Oh, I got to stop saying characters. Most loved people in this show. It's a docuseries. It's real life. It's funny because when I did the interview with Jade, I said, oh, look, it's almost like there's a bit of a reality television vibe going on here. But I think it's because it's the dance industry and it's the nature of it and that entertainment factor of it. But it's very much a documentary, really, isn't it? And I think Emily really was who she was in front of the cameras. And I've been told that actually by quite a few people that I've interviewed through this process, because when the cameras are on you, you don't mean to, but you can sort of be aware of that and change how you behave, even if just slightly, right? But I've been told, and I believe it to be true, that Emily just was herself the whole time. And that is another reason why we as audience members and viewers really fell in love with Emily, because she's just someone that we understood from a human perspective. And that is impactful. That is powerful. And that is Emily Smith, friends. And I can't wait to introduce her to you all. So let's kick into this show. Hello and welcome to Studio Biz and All That Jazz. I'm your performing arts business coach and host, Josephine Lancuba. This show is designed to bring you inspiration, information, and the instruments you need to create and grow the studio biz of your dreams. I will bring you a mix of solo episodes as well as interviews where I tap into the minds of industry experts. My career started as a performer over 2 decades ago. I later became a speaker, theatrical producer, and talent manager, as well as having a successful teaching career in singing, drama, and dance. 10 years into my professional journey, I became a mama of 2, and with a baby on my hip, opened up my very own performing arts studio. From hardship and humble beginnings to 4 studio locations and a multi-6-figure performing arts biz, I know how to attract students and keep them coming back for more. And in the show, I will share with you my experiences to help you thrive and fast-track your path to success. I know you have a spark inside of you with dreams and goals for the future. As your coach and mentor, I'm here to help you step into your limelight and be a cheerleader in your ear each and every week. So get ready to be entertained and inspired as we talk studio biz and all that jazz.
Emily Smith is on today's show, and I couldn't be more excited. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, and I just think it's so cool because for all the listeners at home, we have been putting together a little Dance Life TV Unplugged series here on Studio Biz and all that jazz. And, it's been really interesting having these different conversations and different perspectives of people that are really all in it for the same goal. And that is, you tell me, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's really just about pursuing that passion for your art and your craft and wanting to make a career of it. Is that pretty much the guts of it?
Yeah, for sure. That is all of it is right
It's
there.
all it is right there, right? Now let's rewind a little bit, especially for those that may have not seen Dance Life yet. And if you haven't seen Dance Life yet, please check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, and I believe it's still gunning quite strong there on the top of the charts. So we want to keep that up, But if you've watched the show, you'll know a little bit about Emily's history. But even if you have or you haven't, I think it would be nice to really talk about that. But first, let's talk about dance and how you really started on this journey of dance. Like, where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, well, it started when I was 3 years old, actually. My cousin, Ava, she is a dancer as well. And I just saw her in the studio one day. Well, obviously my nan took me there with little Emily. And I watched my cousin do some ballet, I'm pretty sure. And I think from there, I just fell in love with it. I was like, I want to do that as well. Like, get me in that class with her. So then nan popped me in the class with Ava. And from there, I just haven't stopped.
Yeah,
So
I think it's
yeah.
really interesting, because we start that journey as little ones, but then
Mhm.
it progresses and changes as we got older. When do you think was the tipping point during your training where you're like, oh yeah, nah, I want to do this. Like this is it.
Yeah. I think it probably around high school, because when people get to high school and they pursue dance, I think that's either the make or break for them. They either decide, do I really want to pursue this as a career, or do I want to go down a different path? And I think for me, I was just so in love with it, still going to dance every single night, that I just knew it was something that I wanted to do. And even going to high school, trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to be in the future, I there was just no other option for me, I think, because I tried to think of any other option that I would like to pursue, and I was just like, no, I think dance is what I really want to do.
I never wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, Emily.
No, surprisingly not. I tried to picture it in my head, but it just wasn't happening for me.
So never ever, like, even myself, because I ended up pursuing my career as a performing artist and I worked in, television and as a vocalist
Yeah.
predominantly. Um,
Mhm.
but I did have other things in high school. Like I thought, oh, maybe I could be a journalist, or maybe I could, was there ever anything else?
Honestly, I no. For me, like I've always just seen myself as a dancer, and like I never even when people would ask me this question in high school, my teachers and whatnot, they would say, "What are you planning on doing?" And I'd be like, I'm gonna dance, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just always been in my brain since a little kid that I was going to be a dancer. And I'm happy that I stuck with it, because like I think it's always good to just stick with your guns and what you're passionate for, rather than settle for something that you might not be as happy with.
Yeah, and I
So
think that's interesting because a lot of the people listening here are teachers or studio owners, and it's interesting that you felt that that was an option because for many artists, when they
mm,
say out loud, "Hey, I'm
mm,
going to be a dancer," people go, "Oh yeah, that's great," but
what
what's
do
your
you do?
backup plan?
Mhm.
What's your plan B? What are you really going to do?
Yeah,
It's fun, but what are you really going to do for a job?
yeah.
So I do find that interesting that your confidence in that was unwavering. Was there anything in relation to the way you were trained or the teachers that mentored you in your studio that gave you that self-belief or that confidence that it was possible? Like, how did you even know that a career was an option? Because a lot of young people actually don't realize it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was all to my dance teachers growing up. One of the teachers, well, that I had growing up was actually in Dance Life as our full-time coordinator, Michael Corbett. He was one of my mentors and teachers growing up, and he was always like my biggest number one fan with all of our students. Him and the other director, Jess Berry, they were just so great to us growing up. They always believed that we were just all so incredible and that we all deserved the world and we could do so great in the future, that I think a lot of us from there, well, from what I've seen, a lot of us that grew up together, we have all continued on as dancers, which is incredible to see, and that we've all gone on to full time and done everything like that. So I think it's a lot to do with the people that influence you growing up as a teacher and how they impact you in the studio.
Yeah, totally. And I love that. And I love that you continued your journey with him through this program.
Yeah,
It's really,
it
really
was really
cool. I didn't know
special.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Now, you were very candid, and before we hit record, I just want everyone to know that we had a conversation where I felt really comfortable touching on this. And please correct me if I have any of my facts wrong, but you know, you were really candid about the relationship and the family dynamics, and that really spoke to me. Like I was in tears, Emily. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. I
Yeah.
feel you right now. I feel you right now, right?
Mm.
So, and I think a lot of people felt the same. Now, I want to move this chat to something really candid that you shared in relation to the relationships and the family dynamics that you had, you know, growing up, which, you know, which is why you were living with your beautiful nan and having that wonderful support system. However, sadly, your mother did pass when she was young, when you were young rather, and dad wasn't in the scene, which, you know, is a really tricky situation for any young person. And I want everyone to know listening that this is something that we discussed before hitting record, that we actually, you know, Emily felt safe to talk about this. So that was really important to me. You know, so can we take a little step back there? And if you're comfortable to share, I would love to hear your thoughts on that growing up and how that sort of impacted you as a young person, because you know, we deal with this as teachers all the time and we see these sorts of dynamics in our classrooms, and I think it's interesting to hear from someone who's actually experienced that sort of trauma firsthand.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think for me, the whole reason why I wanted to share this part of my life is because there isn't that many people out there to share, you know, or have the confidence to be able to say something like that. And even for me, I think it was a big step for me to even speak about that, because I think a lot of the people, even in my full-time course, wouldn't have known any of that. And even going to the premiere of the show, a lot of my fellow peers came up to me saying, Emily, I had no idea about any of that. And I think that's the most important factor to me, that I'm able to have this platform and be able to speak about such a sensitive subject, which people can relate to and start to, you know, feel more comfortable bringing up the subject and talking about with other people. And I think for me, even just from speaking about that subject on the show, it's completely transformed like a whole new realm of people speaking out, because I feel that even after the show's come out, I've had people, thousands of people message me on Instagram, sending me their stories, telling me how much it's impacted them and how it's given them the confidence to speak up or to reach out to someone. And I think that in itself was just incredible to hear. And although like it is very sad to hear sometimes, like, but I think it's very important for at least one or two people to be able to get up and say something for something big to happen and for it to make a big impact.
How old were you when your mother passed away? Like, when did that actually happen for you?
Yeah. I was 3 years old, turning
Wow.
4. Yeah. So quite early on.
And that must have really been a difficult time. But also, you know, do you have, and this is a curiosity thing, if you're okay with it, I mean, do you have memories of your time together? Like, is that something that 3 and 4-year-olds can really capture? Like, how does
Yeah.
that sit with you?
Yeah. Sadly for me, I don't really remember much of my mum. All I have is kind of pictures I've been given or little videos here and there. It was kind of hard, the situation that I was placed in, just because I did live with Nan and Pop whilst like quite early on in my childhood. Like I went into Nan and Pop's care at around like about 12 weeks old, I'm pretty sure. So
Right. Okay. So you were
yeah,
there early on.
yeah, and mum and dad would come and visit every now and again, just so, check up and whatnot. But so yeah, there isn't many memories there, but I was told that she always loved coming to see me, would love to just come and sit with me for a whole day. It was her highlight of the week. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm trying to hold back my own tears right now. My mother actually passed away at the beginning of this week, so it's a really difficult subject. But being so young and having the love of your Nan and Pop, I'm sure it doesn't change what happens, but it definitely is wonderful that you had that support network. And I mean, we see your Nan and Pop in the show, and they are like literally your biggest fans.
Yeah, definitely.
They have done everything for you, it looks like, when it comes to your dance.
Yes, they have.
Like, what's that like, having that support network in your grandparents?
I think it's very special to have, because well, I think I was just very lucky to have that in the first place, because there's not many people in certain family groups that will step up to be someone's parents, especially at their age. I think they were in their 50s when I walked into their lives as a newborn, so it was a big thing for them to be able to say like, oh, okay, we're basically starting again. They've had 2 children already that are grown up and having their own children, and now they're having to start again. So I'm very lucky in that aspect that they were willing to step up for me and take me in as their own.
Hey, it's Josephine here. Stick around, this is a super quick break. Now, I just want to share with you that I am on socials and I would love to connect with you there. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I just recently launched on TikTok. I know, I'm super late to the party, right? But I'm there. So follow me and let's start a conversation. Now, on my socials, you can expect free informative industry content, great interview clips, plus inspiration, motivation, education, entertainment, and more. So let's connect. That's Instagram, Facebook, and/or TikTok. Choose your poison. I'll pop a link in the show notes, and let's connect on socials. See you there.
Now, as someone who's grown up in a broken home myself, and I grew up, and I've disclosed in this show a few times that I grew up in a home of domestic violence, and that may not be your situation, but I understand what a broken home looks like. And though you've had the warmth and the nurturing from your grandparents, there was obviously some brokenness that occurred for it to lead to that. What was that like in the sense of your health, your mental health, the impact it made on you, like growing up in that environment? How did that actually impact you as a person?
I think for me, the hardest thing was accepting that I was not living with a mum and dad, and I had a Nan and Pop. And even I think it was a thing for other people to get used to as well, like my peers in primary school and whatnot, for me to turn up with Father's Day with my pop, like little things like that. I think that was probably the hardest aspect, just having other people get used to it and try to figure out, why am I living with older people, So that was one thing. But I think, for me, it was just the whole aspect of getting to see other people with their parents as well, walking around, seeing your friends and peers with their little families, and it hurts your heart a bit, but I'm also very grateful for my Nan and Pop, because they were always by my side, there for me always. So
biggest cheerleaders. I love that
always.
so much. Well, thank you for sharing that, Emily. I love that you're candid
Yes.
about this. And this is really what connected me to you because of my story and so many people's stories. You know, we've all got these deep-rooted childhood traumas or experiences or things that have impacted our lives, and we need to show it a little bit more. So I really want to thank you for bringing that to the table and to the show, because I truly believe that that's the power of it. And you know, and you mentioned your DMs blew up and all of this sort of thing, and I just think that
Yeah.
that is so cool because it shows that connection that you've built with an audience, and probably unintentionally, I imagine, like
Yeah.
just from being yourself, right?
Yeah. It was just absolutely crazy that how such a little 5-minute moment can change so many people's lives, which is crazy.
Yeah. And it was 5 minutes, right? This is the thing.
Yeah, it was just a
Power of
small clip.
television, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the power of being yourself. Let's
Mm.
talk about this fandom. So, you know, you were unapologetically you. I find it really interesting that no one actually knew amongst your peers group about what had happened to you until it aired, or prior. Like, when did they find out?
Yeah. I think it was a subject that I never really thought would just like, come up in conversation. So it was never really just, out there. So
Mm.
yeah, it was more of a situation of we got to the premiere and everyone was like, oh my God. And even the cast, we watched it all together a bit earlier on from the premiere and none of them knew either. So that was a big moment for me to be able to sit there with the other people of the cast and for it to just be up there, and then they would just turn around to me like, Emily, like I had no idea. So
Yeah, that's crazy. And interesting that they got that impact on watching it back, even though they were cast members of the show. So that's really interesting.
yeah.
Let's talk about again that fandom, the DMs blowing up. What do people tell you in these DMs? What do they say to you? Like, what is happening?
Well, I've had a lot of different messages, but they're all very positive and lovely and very caring. I've been so blessed by so many like beautiful people just messaging me saying like things of what I've said before, like sending me their stories and being able to connect with me through that and sharing what they've been through, which is really nice to hear and touching for me to be able to say that I've impacted them in a way. But I've had messages from, young girls and young boys saying like, oh, I aspire to be like you when I'm older, which is really just mind-boggling to me that kids are looking up to me because I don't know, I just don't, it's just weird to see myself in a light of, influencing people now. But
Totally. And you know what it is? And I don't know if anyone said this, and I'll say it because I think it's actually a really good thing. The Emily Smith that we see on television is honestly the person we resonate with, because it's like a reflection of ourselves. You're the girl next door from Western Sydney who's going for the big dream, right? And
yeah.
it's like it's cool. It's
Mm.
cool because it's most people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so people connect with that. And it's interesting, like even me, I've just told you that I feel compelled to tell you, oh, I've grown up in a home of domestic violence and I want to share
Yeah.
it with you. And I feel it's really interesting that people are messaging you with their stories,
Mhm.
which is really powerful. I mean, what's that like? Do you feel famous? Like, how does that feel?
Well, like it's
Be
definitely
honest, Emily. Come on, be honest.
it's definitely yeah, a very new experience for me. I think because you'll see in the show that I'm quite hidden in the shadows. I kind of like to be in the background or not put myself out there as much. And now the fact that my face is just out there in the world and people are starting to recognize me, it's very different. And I don't like to say that I'm famous. I like to say that like I have a familiar face now. I think I like to I
You
like
get
to
stopped in the street?
I have a few times, which is so wild. Like
That's
even just going to the groceries, I'd go and get my groceries. I'll be in the frozen food aisle and there's a mum with her kids saying, oh, are you that girl from Brent Street? Dance Life? And I'm like, yes. Like, yeah, it's wild, but I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so cool. I mean, coming from Western Sydney, what was it that you mentioned? Oh, you're that girl from here going to Brent Street and all the things. Like, what lured you to Brent Street? Why did you feel that you needed to go to one of these sorts of full-time environments for learning? Like, what was it that lured you into that
Yeah.
space?
I think that was a thing from our teachers growing up as well. They would kind of educate us on where we would want to go next in dance if we wanted to, which was very good. I think that they would sit us down and be like, okay, well, these are the next steps if you want to continue on in dance. So I always had Brent Street in my brain as somewhere I'd want to go, because a lot of the people I looked up to, specifically one that I can think of right now, like Gaynor Hicks, she's now touring with like Justin Bieber and that, but she went to Brent Street and she did full time at Brent Street, and I looked up to her so much, and I just knew I wanted to do exactly what she was doing. So Brent Street was always the plan for me. I actually did end up going there earlier prior to full time because of COVID. My old studio had shut down due to COVID. So
Oh no.
yeah, so from there I went to Brent Street to finish my last full like junior years of dancing before full time. So I was actually very lucky to already be training there before full time, and I knew what I was walking into, and I was prepared.
Yeah, I mean, you had to travel quite a bit, right? How long was the travel? How did you get there?
Yeah, well, during full time I would get up around 6 a.m., get a train at 7, train it all the way to Central, which is about an hour. Then you would get the tram and then you would walk. So to aim to get there for around 9 a.m.
Mm,
And
mm.
then you would do the same on the way back. But also when I would go there for like the junior school, the PTP program, I would go after high school. So I would walk from my high school to the train station and then travel it all the way to the city.
Yeah, and so that's a major commitment because you weren't getting lifts, like, and
Yeah,
it's a
no,
lot to ask as well because you've got grandparents and, for them to be on the roads and all, it's a big
exactly.
thing to ask elderly
Yeah.
people to do. I
Mm.
know from my in-laws, like we live 45 minutes away from them and they still drive.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal to drive to us. We have to go to them. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if your grandparents like that, but like, I mean, that's the way it is in our family. So it's a
Yeah.
bit for people to do that. And the fact that you were so committed is
Yeah.
commendable because you did that all on your own in high school. A lot of kids don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, you get
Yeah.
them,
I was
right?
very passionate about it, and I knew like I was so lucky to be able to even go there in the first place. So I
Mm,
always had that in my brain when I was heading there.
yeah. What's the main difference, do you think, between your home training studio versus a full-time environment?
Oh, I think not too much, but was definitely different aspects. I think because the studio I was previously at was a competitive dance studio, we did quite well in the competitive dance scene, that I was kind of prepared and well trained in the aspect of, you know, I guess what you call strict teachers, whatnot. Like they weren't strict, but they wanted the best for us. They weren't just slacking off, just getting the hourly money. Like they wanted us to really do well. And I think in that sense that prepared me for full time, that um I just walked in ready, knowing what I wanted to do. I was focused. I was never really distracted because we were trained and built up that way
Mm.
in our previous studio.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, look, a lot of people think, oh, you go to a school like Brent Street and you become a star and it's all going to happen and all the things are going to work for you. But really, that foundation comes from the original studio in which you trained, right? Like,
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't have been able to do what you did if you didn't have those foundations. I'm assuming,
Yeah.
what was the difference in the style? Like, do you find that, coming from that real studio environment, local studio environment versus, what's known to be quite a slick
Hmm.
professional environment, is the style different? Like, are you finding that the technique and style differs, or is it the same?
I think in regards to like the dance aspect, it was quite similar, because I did have Michael as one of my
Mm,
teachers. So I kind of already knew what I was walking into in regards to dance, but definitely like environment wise, very different. Because when you're coming from like a small dance studio in Penrith that is very like, family orientated, and you're walking into Brent Street, it can definitely be a big shock. But eventually you realize that all of the people that go to Brent Street are there to be professional dancers. And when you walk into full time, you have to walk in with that mindset. You can't walk in as a dancer there just to, you know, have a bit of fun for a year. You're there because you want to pursue dance as a career. And I think that's the thing that some people didn't really grasp onto when they walked into Brent Street. I think the fact that you need to be walking in there knowing that you're a dancer and you're going to do this as a career rather than I'll see how I go, you know, sort of situation.
Yeah. Well, let's speak to that a little bit more, because you said before that you said earlier in this interview that you were like a shadow on the wall sort of thing, like shadow in the background or whatever. I can't remember your exact words, but you talked about being a shadow in the space.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting because, you know, when you do walk into such an intimidating environment, and it can be intimidating, I mean, how do you, you know, develop those relationships? How do you do that if you are a reserved human? Like if you're standing back, just doing the work, getting it done, do you find that you're still able to maximize the experience of, like, you know, the social aspects, or was that really difficult and did it take a long time to sort of get into a group there? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. For me, I think my confidence grew as I continued through full time. I walked in already with a great group of friends and whatnot because I had already gone to Brent Street in the previous year. But I think it wasn't more of an aspect of me, you know, being vulnerable and I guess insecure. I think for me, it was just I very much like to focus on myself during class time, and I would just keep to myself and be in my own zone. And I think people would see that as, oh, she's very scared, which I was, because obviously it's a big change, and you know, full time it can be very scary. But I think for me, it was just I really like to just focus on myself and really focus on my learning. And I think throughout that year, I grew that confidence to just slowly walk my way up to the front of the room. And then by the end of full time, I think every class I would be standing front center right next to the teacher to make sure that I'm learning as much as I can. So it's crazy how things can change throughout the course of a year, because I went from standing in the back, just, you know, keeping to myself, just learning the choreo, focusing on my own being and my own confidence, to being able to stand right next to the teacher every class. And I think just that alone is a big thing for dancers as well.
Yeah, and obviously they could see the work that you were putting in regardless of where you stood in the room, right? Because oh gosh, I've had a mind blank, but Jazz A group or something, what's it
Yeah,
called?
Jazz 1, yeah.
Jazz 1, not Jazz A, Jazz 1, right? Jazz 1, what a big deal that is for you guys.
Yeah.
Talk me through Jazz 1. Why Jazz 1? Why does everyone care about being in Jazz 1?
Yeah. You know what? I think this is the thing that needs to be spoken about, because people think like, why not hip hop one? Why not ballet one? You know, but Jazz 1 was a big thing because you would get so much out of it in the aspect of further opportunities. I think if you get into, well, because basically I'd say for Brent Street, jazz is probably the most prominent style where it's more showcased. Like the jazz commercial hip hop scene is more of the Brent Street vibe, you know? So to be in Jazz 1, you would get a lot of opportunities. Like, for example, some things you didn't get to see in dance life. Jazz 1, we all went to Melbourne. We all went to Melbourne as a group and we performed down at the Victorian Dance Festival. So that was something that Jazz 1 got to do. We also got to perform at the Australian Dance Festival later in the year, which was really cool. So it's little things like that which you get more opportunities out of.
Okay. So it's about that. It's also a validation point, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, you know, everyone wants to have some level of acknowledgement of the work and the effort and the skill
Mhm.
they. And so
Yeah,
being in Jazz One, sure, there's like opportunity and you get to do cool stuff, but
yeah,
there must be a sense of pride in it, surely.
yeah,
Like, I
definitely.
made it. Wow, they saw me. I did it, you know.
Yeah.
I think
Hmm.
that was really interesting watching the different paths that people took when it came to their results and how
Yeah.
seriously some people took it, you know. And I just thought for you, it seemed to mean a lot to you.
Yeah, I think because I don't know, it was just something that I really wanted to be a part of, you know, like I wanted to be known as someone not so much for my talent, but like for someone that works really hard to be in the place that she is, you know.
Mm.
So I wanted to be in Jazz One as known as someone who's dedicated and will work hard to be there.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just take a step into what your sort of the opportunities that have come
Mm.
from being in the show, because I imagine a lot has happened since. Tell
Mm.
us what's happening. Like, I've heard on the grapevine that you're choreographing for one of the stars of Heartbreak High. Is that true? What is happening? Tell me everything. Like,
Yeah.
what are you up to?
Well, at the moment, I'm still just, you know, doing my normal dance teaching stuff, whatnot, teaching weekly, which I love. I love teaching. But from dance life, yeah, I've gotten a few cool opportunities. I choreographed a music video for the main character of Heartbreak High. Her name's Aisha.
Mhm.
Um, which was a really cool for me. She just DM'd me on Instagram and basically said, I saw you on Dance Life. I loved you and I'd love to give you an opportunity to do a music video for me, which would help me out as well. And I was like, for sure. Like I would love that because that would be my first ever choreography opportunity, which is something that I want to walk into eventually further in the future. But that was a big thing for me. And I've been doing some workshops here and there at some studios. They've had me in, which is really special because I've gotten to meet so many beautiful kids that have watched Dance Life and look up to the cast. And it's just so awesome to talk to them and their experiences and whatnot.
Yeah, that's really cool. Are you now represented by their in-house agency at Brent Street or?
Yeah, I'm represented by
Yeah,
Focus Talent Management.
nice. And how does it feel now to walk out of graduation and be a represented artist? How does that feel?
It felt incredible to be honest because it was just like another stepping stone like upwards and it was just something that I always wanted even like prior to full time I knew like oh, I would really love an agent because if you're going to be honest with yourself like agents make life a whole lot easier as a performer, you know, like it's just another thing that you can add to make your dance career a whole lot easier. And
Mm.
um yeah, it was just something that I always wanted. And when I was lucky enough to be given an agent after grad, I was just in absolute shock. And I was just so happy that that had happened for me. And yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because I actually am a talent agent. I represent artists in film, TV, commercial, theatre, all that jazz. But it does make life easier.
Yeah.
Like people will be self-represented and they can do a great job, sure.
Hmm.
But there's just so many opportunities that come through agencies that are not publicly broadcast. It's just the way it is because of
Yeah.
confidentiality and all these other things. So unless you're really in the loop, if you're independently representing yourself, you've got to be so in the loop
Yeah.
and have all these connections. And even then, you're not going to get all the briefs. So I do think having an agent is so important. So congratulations on that. I think that's
Thank
very,
you.
very cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that it would be interesting to know what it feels like going from lights, camera, action. Okay, so you've done this full-time course and there was these cameras in your face for some of it, not all of it. And I know that it was quite sporadic filming, I've heard. I mean, talk me through that. What's it like going from having the cameras and all the action and the filming to then nothingness for a couple of years in the edit, right? Because that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
Editing time. And
Hmm.
then boom again. Oh my gosh, the show's on television. Woo, right?
Yeah.
And then of course, there's always like it descends again, right? The energy descends. It's a bit of a roller coaster, and that's life as an artist, and I know it
Oh
very.
yeah.
But what's that like for you? Because I can imagine there's like these intense highs
Hmm.
and there's these lulls.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, there was definitely a big difference from going to filming to absolutely nothing, because it all went from us being mic'd up in our rooms, from January all the way up until grad. And then once grad had done, we hadn't seen the camera crew for who knows, 6 months, like it's just crazy how it can go, yeah, as you said, from everything to absolutely nothing. And I guess it's all like patience and the waiting game after that. You have to be able to just sit there and just wait for it all to happen. And I think that when the show came out, to be honest, it was perfect timing, because it's January holidays, all the kids were at home, they have a show to binge watch. So patience is the key, and timing is everything. And although we did have to wait quite a long time, or basically a year's worth of waiting, it was all worth it in the end, I think.
Yeah, big rate, I reckon. And that's television. That's what
That
happens,
is,
right?
yeah,
Process. It's a huge one. I mean, I spoke to Jade Barnes, who, as you know, is the executive producer.
yeah,
And she was like, yeah, like the amount of work that happens after the cameras are offsite is really where the work begins. So,
exactly. So
um,
much.
so yeah, and the highs and lows of that is challenging, but I'm glad that, you've come out of it. You've been able to tell your story in a way that's impacting people. It's resonating. I love that you're getting booked, like running workshops, at multiple studios, and people really want to see you in this space, which is so cool. That you've started you've dipped your toe into the choreography side of things.
Yes.
Very, very cool. So before we wrap up today, I just want to ask you, what does success look like to you? Like, how do you define success?
That's a good question. For me, in my eyes, success is me being at my absolute happiest, I think. It has nothing to do with how far I've gotten in a career, how, you know, just I think just for me, when I know in my brain that I am at my absolute happiest, I am achieving what I want to achieve, or things are starting to work up to the way that I want to. I think that's my definition of, I'm starting to succeed. I'm starting to do the things that I want to do in life. So
Mm. Yeah, happiness is a big one. And I think it's so hard to differentiate yourself sometimes between who you are as a person and your career. So I think it's really cool that you acknowledge that separation.
yeah.
Like, just because, if your career works or it doesn't or whatever,
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you live an unhappy life. So yeah, but that can be hard. Like sometimes we do tie our identity in with what we do.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's a tricky one.
Mhm.
So tell me, who or what inspires you most?
Oh, I actually have two big inspirations that are very different in their own aspects. My dance inspiration, her name is Paris Gobel. She is the owner of the Royal Family Dance Crew over in New Zealand. She's basically started out as a dance teacher, opened up her own dance studio very young, and it's blown up into this incredible performing arts studio that have now traveled and performed at the Super Bowl and everything like that. And even her as an artist, she's now working for Rihanna as like her resident choreographer. She's choreographing all of the Super Bowls. And I think for me, I just look at her and think, I want to be you. Like I want to be doing what you're doing, because she's always just been such a big inspiration for me, that everything that she does, everything I see her do, I'm like, oh, I aspire to just be like you one day. And my second inspiration, it's more, I guess, about my morals and my personality and who I like to be, aspire to be like. It's actually Princess Diana.
Oh,
Um,
wow. I love this.
yeah,
Tell me more.
yeah, she's I think just the way that she approached life and the way that she pursued herself out to the public and how she was as a person is something that I would really like to live up to and aspire to be like her, and to, you know, she just gave so much to the world despite everything that she went through personally. And I always look up to her in that way, that despite how much she went through by herself, that she was just still so loving to the world and gave so much. And I really love her for that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that so much. So now tell me what's next? What's the next thing that's happening for you? Is there anything happening, or you're just like keeping on?
Yeah. Next thing for me, I think just want to keep working on my own craft, on my own creative abilities, on my own teaching skills, on my own training, my own dancing. I think I'm just still working on everything I want in order to get even.
Are you still training after grad? You're still keeping up?
For sure. Yeah. I'm always doing workshops. Even when I'm teaching, I try to, you know, make sure I'm stretching with the kids. So like I'm still keeping up my own fitness and whatnot. I still, go to the gym every day, make sure I keep my stamina and everything up. So in case a dance job were to come up, I'm ready, and I'm always ready for something like that. But yeah, I think what I'm doing now is just kind of still preparing myself for what I want to do in the future, because I eventually want to hopefully move to possibly London or LA, get some dancing jobs there. That's the next big dream.
Wow, I love that. That is so cool. You've got big dreams. I love it.
I do.
Where can people find you? Like, where do you play? What's your social media play? Like, where do we go?
Probably Instagram.
Insta. All right, awesome. Check out Emily Smith on Insta. We'll pop a link in the show notes for everyone. We'll also pop a link for Dance Life as well, so you can get hooked into the show. I know I binge watched it. That's what we do. I said to Jade, actually, I actually just got Prime because I wanted to watch it. So
yeah.
So apparently that was a really big thing, and it did hit number one. And I think it hit number one again, and I just think it's so awesome, and it supports, not just Australian dancers and gives you an insight into that, but I think it's really important for dance and the arts to be on our screens on a mainstream platform and in a mainstream way, because this isn't just dancers watching it.
No, it's people outside as well, and they're finally getting to grasp the aspect of dance and how actually hard it is. And I like to say that it's a good platform for the people that say dance isn't a sport to see it.
Totally. And that it's not a job, and it's not a career, and it's not
for all those people, they can watch that and think, wow, okay, they actually work very, very hard. They train very, very hard for it.
Yeah, and it's a real job, guys.
Yeah, it is. You'd hope so after all of this training. Yeah.
That's a real job. All right. Thank you so much, Emily, for being on the show. You have been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Studio owners, would you like to be able to offer your students and community opportunities in film, television, theatre, commercial, on stage, in musical theatre, and more? Well, you can. Right now, most studios receive auditions and opportunities via email, but they don't really have a strategy around it. They don't have an in-house talent management service. They certainly don't receive any kickback or revenue or commission from the bookings if their students book the gig. They simply flick the email to the talent and say, hey, here's the audition, go for it. But what if I told you that you could actually make talent management a strategy? You could turn it into an additional revenue stream. Not only can it increase your studio's revenue, having an in-house talent management service or talent agency, but it can also increase your student retention and your industry credibility. Now, for a limited time, I am offering myself up, offering myself up on a platter to show you the ropes when it comes to how to tangibly create an in-house talent management service. I am the creator of the world's only course that teaches studio owners how to go from studio owner to talent manager. right? This is a world first. I've been doing it for a couple of years and no one else does it because, it's breaking the glass ceiling of the entertainment industry. It's making the arts and professional industry accessible. Not everyone wants that, but I do. So I'm an advocate for artists, I'm an advocate for talent, and I want you to be able to provide those opportunities, but also make it an opportunity for your business. So, Talent Manager Bootcamp doors are not currently open. However, I am offering myself privately through one-on-one coaching through a Talent Manager Intensive. This is a 3-month coaching process where twice a month for 3 months, you will get me as your one-on-one coach online. The schedule is your choice. You book through my calendar, super easy there. You'll also, for a limited time, get the lessons, the pre-recorded lessons of Talent Manager Bootcamp. So you get me one-on-one and you get the pre-recorded modules of Talent Manager Bootcamp. Within 12 weeks, you could be operating your very own in-house talent management service. So what are you waiting for? Contact me now. I'll pop a link in the show notes to my emails. Shoot me an email. It's hello@josephinelancuba.com, or you can book a free 15-minute discovery call, have a chat with me, and let's nut it out. Let's have a conversation. Ask me all your questions and away we go. Go from studio owner to talent manager. It's totally possible. Create your dream studio today. This episode was brought to you by my signature group coaching program, Studio Biz Success, an amazing and accessible online educational platform for performing arts studio owners designed to help you grow your business with confidence and get your results. Check it out at josephinelancuba.com along with other great industry resources to help you leap into the studio biz you deserve. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends. You can tag me on social media at Josephine Lancuba and give it a review. Your support helps the show to grow so I can continue to provide you with useful, informative content. I'm Josephine Lancuba, your biggest cheerleader. Thanks for listening and shine bright.